You've counted every calorie, tried every diet, spent hours in the gym, and still something's missing. You want more than just weight loss. You want your energy back. You want your confidence restored. You want a way of living that doesn't feel like punishment. Welcome to Master Your Metabolism, where we cut through the noise, ditch the fads, and give you a real plan to become the healthiest, strongest version of you. Hosted by our team of expert coaches with proven strategies, science-based tips, and real-life encouragement, not just to help you lose fat, but actually create that lifestyle that you love. You've tried everything. Now, let's try what actually works. This is your turning point. Let's go. Hey, all. Welcome to Master Your Metabolism. And I am here today with not only my lovely husband, Calvin,
What's up,
but
everybody?
Jess Stancil from Stancil Strength Coaching. Thank you for being here again with us.
Just the man. Back. Round two.
We had a fun one the first time around.
Yeah, we did.
It took a little while to coordinate something again, but yeah, I'm happy to be on, and I know we have so much to talk about. So
We always have great conversations. We
yeah,
always have great conversations.
neither
And
are
this one,
converse, not really anything scripted or planned. So I think we'll have some good conversations on the topics.
if not, we have some bloopers. That's
We'll
what
have
it makes.
bloopers too.
Lots of bloopers. So
Yeah, we have
that's
to do a
everybody
blooper
loves.
reel for sure. Show us actually setting up for these podcasts.
Absolutely. So, I wanted to do this one, and this is why I thought it was a good topic for all of us on bodybuilding specifically, because I've been hearing a lot from people, especially when I said I'm doing a show and people are like, well, I could never do that, and they make those comments, or people think that bodybuilders do it for, hey, you just want to like jump on stage. And I think they miss the point and a lot of the kind of things that you don't see behind the scenes and why people do what they do. And there are different reasons that everybody kind of gets into bodybuilding. Everyone has a story of why they're getting to stage. Everybody has their thing, but it's really not just the changes in your physique. But for me, it was really looking at everything, auditing the way, not just the way I was eating, but who I was hanging out with, how I was training, how I was sleeping. You really have to look at all things that you're doing. And for me, that was something really eye opening when I saw kind of the difference in what it takes to be able to get to stage. And it's not just about the chicken and broccoli, but I think there's a lot more with training for bodybuilding, that everything has to become intentional. And that's what I love about it is, going into prep, it really makes you be consistent. It really makes you be more disciplined in things that, again, not to a distorted eating disorder type of view, but something that, hey, let me see what I can learn about my body. Let me see what I can do. Let me see what I can accomplish. Let me see the things that I never thought possible that I was able to do. So for me, that was, when I did my first show, I mean, mainly it was because Calvin should have done it and he wouldn't do it until I did one. So that's really how I started. So mine wasn't like the normal reason, but definitely once I started, it was just a different path that I never really realized what it was until I was in it,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
you think about all the things that it is, but a lot of things that come to mind is what it's not, and what it's not is what you hear from people that don't do it. And it becomes clear that they have a really big misunderstanding of what it's all about and why we would put ourselves through this, this rigorous routine and then do it all over again and then do it again and love it, just doesn't make sense to them. So it's got to be something a little bit deeper, right? And not just as one person called it, and this one just hurt my soul when they said it, a flex contest. I was like, what?
I know there are people that think that we like do more than flex up there too. Do you have to lift something or
Mhm.
and it's funny to look at that way. Like it is on the day of the show, like it's kind of a flex contest. It's a pageant, right? But we don't like none of us do this because we're like I just want to go on stage and flex. I mean, it's everything that leads up to it, like you said, Brooke, that makes us actually enjoy that and want to do it. And there's a lot of different parts that have to come together perfectly. That's why consistency is so key in so many different areas of it. I mean, you can't just have like the workouts down right, the diet down right, learn how to poke. Like you have to put all of it together. And that's what we love about it. And like that's why we want to go on this crazy endeavor to end up just going to the stage, because going on the stage just kind of gives us a purpose to doing that stuff and makes it a little more enjoyable, kind of have a deadline on it.
Yeah, and you see what you're capable of. The end result is like, look at what I did. I did all of this work. And the stage is like, look, I did it. I did all the things. And getting to the stage, that's just your reinforcement of like, wow, I literally took care of every single thing. I checked every box and I did it. And that feeling of accomplishment and that confidence in yourself of looking, I just want to get better every time I get on that stage. So I took a year, over a year off to build. So now this time I'm excited to get on stage because I want to see what I built, and I think it's that part of it also is this sport is definitely about improving yourself and seeing what you're capable of and not just being okay with being status quo is I want to get better every single time. And, some people are getting into it. Let me just do it so I can get skinny. I hear a lot of these girls, if it just wants to get me in shape. Like, if you do that, it is going to mess with your mind. If you are striving to just be skinny and striving to do it that way, that's how eating disorders develop, right? But if you're looking at it of, let me see and learn from what I did and how can I make myself better?
Yeah,
Because there's always someone better. There's always someone leaner. There's always some like genetic freak that has glutes like the size of like watermelons that I will never be able to do. So I just need to be okay with what I can do and what I have built and what I have learned. So I think that part of it is definitely something for me that I really enjoy. I really enjoy seeing the things I never thought were possible that I was actually able to do. And then I look at myself and it spills over into everything. It spills over into my job. It spills over in, how I coach people. It spills over into my relationships. It spills over into everything because that confidence you build into yourself spills over into all aspects.
I think that's where
yeah.
it gets fun is like that improvement phase too. Would you agree that like maybe, I mean, the first show is a lot of fun too, but you don't know what kind of expectations to have. A lot of times you don't want to go into it with a like, oh, I just want to get in shape, so I'm going to get on stage, because then you're going to feel worse about yourself because your comparisons on a totally different level. I think that it really gets fun when you've actually done a show. Like, oh, that was cool, or maybe it wasn't cool because I wasn't happy with where I'm at yet. But then like I have something to build on, and I know what to expect when I get on stage, and I have feedback, and I can keep improving on this. That's where it's like what they call it. It's a game that doesn't end. You know,
Yes.
I think Hormozi talks about this. They're
And that's
finite and infinite games, and bodybuilding something where like you don't, unless you have a specific goal. Like, I want to win this one show, I want to win a pro card, and then I'm done. You can keep going at it. You can always try to improve on something and come back a little bit better.
yeah, and Jess is a well-established IFBB pro. He's made a name out there, people know who Jess is, and he's doing the same with coaching. So it is like, I mean, I know you gotta interview the potential clients coming in, and I don't know, how do you feel like when you ask, say you have a female come in and you say, "Well, what's your reason for wanting to compete?" And you hear her say, "Well, I just wanna look good in a bikini."
Start as
How
a
does that hit you?
lifestyle client. And I love
You
that,
know?
take somebody that, like, is on the fence, like, "Oh, yeah, I wanna get in shape, and maybe I wanna compete one day. I don't know yet." We're not gonna jump into a prep. Yeah, we're gonna start, like, uh, training like a bodybuilder does. I think a lot of people can benefit from just training like that anyways, and then see if one day, the stage aspirations, there's a lot of progress to be made to get there. And kind of on the same note of what you were saying, not just like physique progress, but all of these things that come together too. Like, you got to get better at that. And that's what people don't see from the outside looking in. It's like, even when we do a lot of pretty basic things that everyone does, we bodybuilding is a game of like eating and working out, if you really simplify it. And everybody eats, and a lot of people work out,
Yep.
but you're trying to be, the best at that. And that's where all of the details to it, the skill set comes in, of like being just dialed in to all of those things. And people think that we just, go to the gym a lot and eat, but you can, a lot of people do that. Everybody's gone to a gym and seen a bunch of people who eat food and they work out pretty often, and they don't all look like bodybuilders because they're all these little things that go into it to to add up to something. And then you factor in, the posing and the
Yeah.
lifestyle things like sleeping enough,
Sleep.
like getting your blood
Yeah.
work right, like the supplements, learning the mindset of a competitor.
Yeah, and that's I mean, you make some really good points with that, and that's the thing that it's funny because you'll see people that have been going to the gym for years, right? You see them at the gym and they're in good shape, following a diet, following macros, doing their thing, but really no real changes, no real impressive changes, maybe a little less fat here and there, but they're not growing. And so those details, like you mentioned, those are what makes the difference between, a bodybuilder, a competitive bodybuilder, and someone that's bodybuilding just for lifestyle. There's nothing wrong at all for somebody that's bodybuilding for lifestyle, but it's definitely not the same thing because as a bodybuilder, it's not just about getting the right foods in and hitting your macros. It's about crossing, all the T's, just covering everything, getting the sleep, making sure the balances are right, paying attention to the biofeedback. The science comes in at that point because what a lot of people, I don't think they really think about it, but bodybuilding is the leanest people in the world, leaner than Olympic athletes.
Yeah,
When we step on that stage, we are that 0.0001%
yeah,
of people that were willing to get to that point,
that's
and it is not easy, to do that, but it can be easier than most people deal with sometimes as long as they do the things that need to be done, which is paying attention to those things like sleep and recovery, making sure the timing's right with the food, so many details going in, digestion, is their digestion regular? All the things you have to consider before you go into prep, is because you don't want to go into a prep if you're going to the bathroom once every 3 days. That needs to be fixed. You know, hormones, something that lifestyle doesn't think as much about. They just kind of go and get their regular check in with the doctor once a year. As an athlete, we need to know. We need to know exactly where our hormones are before prep and after prep. And we know how to fix it. A good coach like Jess, we know how to fix these things, and we know the importance of fixing those things if you want to make any progress in the off season. Much less losing the weight you need to lose into prep. And if those stars aren't in alignment, you still can get in great shape, but are you going to place top five? And I think that's the goal for most people is to get that top five number, hopefully win, but top five. And that's can be the difference, that little percentage of what did we not do right?
yeah.
What could we have corrected better?
Because everybody
So
that's doing it competitively, that wants to win, like they're checking all those boxes. So I
Yes.
think that's a good point. Is you can get on stage and like just do it because you want to get in shape, or you're like, hey, I want to try this thing out. I want to try to adopt this lifestyle. I've made a lot of progress. I've lost some weight. I want to showcase it and be proud of myself. And maybe you're not 100% doubting it. You can get on stage and do that, and that can be admirable too, but you have to have realistic expectations too. And if you want to place well at all and make it worthwhile, like you need to be not just like checking all the boxes, but even mentally, like kind of
Okay.
prepared to when you have to have that mindset of like I'm all about this thing, not just an hour in the gym, but 24/7 for this prep or before the prep, the time that I've spent like building the muscle, getting my hormones, my sleep, my digestion right, I'm locked in. And if you don't go into a prep with that kind of mindset and those habits down, it's cool. Do a show for whatever reasons you want to, but don't expect to place well in a competitive level too. When other people are, you know, all checking all those boxes and have been doing it for a long time, and they probably have good genetics too, and all the other things, and there can only be one winner.
Yep. Yep. But it's also cool to see somebody that's never done it before. And I tell them, train like you are, right? To start those habits. So that way, eventually, when it gets to the point your physique is in a great place, you've been doing all the lifestyle habits, then to make the decision, you know what? I do want to see what I'm capable of. I do want to see what takes me to love. And that usually, those are the ones that have created the habits, done the things so that when they do get to stage, then all of a sudden it's like, all right, like you've already done the basics. Like now let's just turn this up and see what you can really do. And, for a lot of people, it's life changing because I always tell people, for me, when I was doing it, I was the biggest introvert. Like I still can't believe to this day that I even did it. I mean, what I do for Calvin. It's crazy. It was like I was so scared before jumping on that stage. Like I remember literally shaking backstage and so afraid. But when I did it and made it to the other side, it was like it was a shift. It was something of I never in a million years thought I could possibly do that. I was so terrified and I did it anyway. That shifted who I was. And then it was just like when I did it the next time, it was like I was still scared, but it was like, wow, like if I did it, what is going to happen now? Like, what am I going to look like this time? And it's really cool to be able to be in a place that you constantly want to evolve and that you constantly want to become better. And it's not about comparing, like, of course, they're going to compare you to the next person, but I can look at those people and look at myself like, hey, I'm 52 years old. I'm not going to be able to compare myself to the 18-year-old because she's my same height. It is, but you know what? I'm 52 and sitting on stage in a bikini and heels with an 18-year-old girl and I'm still holding my own. So it's that aspect of it also that I feel has allowed me to be in a much stronger place mentally, because you can't look at it like comparing to other people. You can't ever do that because you don't know their story. You don't know how long they've been doing it. I literally was working out for what? My show was in November, my first show. I started working out in my 40s in July, like from 40s, and then I competed in November. So it was like that's when I started working out. So obviously I wasn't going to do, but I was impressed with myself that I was even able to do it, you know?
I
So
can
I
see the change, after you did the show, I can 100% see the change and what it's evolved into with us, And, for me, of course, I had to compete after that. Once I saw her do it, that was my motivation. I'm like, I need to, get myself together and go do this. And, that was a turning point for me. Once I got on that stage for the first time, our lives changed. It did. The course of our life did. And that's what got us here today, but it's something that it should scare people. I think if it doesn't scare them, then they're really not taking it as seriously as they should, because you want to have that fear, but that fear is excitement at the same time. But that's when you know you're being challenged, and that's the growth is going into it, facing it. You're facing the dragon, and you're going in to slay the dragon, and that's brave to go and do that. And this is bringing out something out of somebody that may be like an introvert. Maybe there's this person that goes to work every day and just doesn't get a lot of, kudos for what they do, maybe not a lot of respect, but this is an opportunity for them to step up and do something for themselves to show that they really are capable of doing all these things. But it brings that challenge, the growth that comes from it, of doing it. It's not about placing, it's about what you achieved and getting on that stage and doing it. What happens after that is that's your journey. If it's about placing, you want to start doing better and be a true competitor, then go for it. But you have to get that first thing, that first step. That's where the growth begins, and it is just it's just a great thing. I think for a lot of people, it's definitely not for everyone. I think you do have to kind of understand, like, bodybuilders are infamous for being some of the most unsociable people, for the reasons that we mentioned, because people think for us, it's just about the food, that we just have to have the food right, right? We meal prep, but it's all the other things that are in it too, is being home in time, not drinking so you can actually recover well that
Right.
week, all these things. But at the same time, me as a coach, one of the things I encourage with my competitors is not to get overconsumed with those things to where all you think about is prep. And I think you, Jess, would probably agree that this happens to a lot of people because there is a very big mental side to it, that you go in and this is literally all you think about and you become that, but then you forget about the exterior of, so it's important to have a balance, of these things. And maybe for the first show, maybe you do kind of need to be all in, but as you progress through it, it's important to go see your friends. It's important to spend time with your family, but it's important to find a way that you could do that, to bring your food with you and make that work. And when you can do that, then you have the lifestyle. That's the true lifestyle. A lifestyle isn't just eating the meals and getting to sleep. It's actually having a life while you do this. So, but I think the mental side, like, I'm sure you've seen it, Jess, how it can affect people when they get into it and they realize they have that turning point where they realize it's a little bit harder than they thought. Have you had any experiences like that
I think there's
with any?
levels to it too, Um, at some point you do need to kind of be all in enough to know what that feels like. And that's the good and the bad of it, right? Like it is fun. I think part of, the whole getting on stage, process the fear of doing that and overcoming it. It's also kind of a culmination of not just the stepping on stage part, but everything else that you've done going into it. And when you've been all in and you've challenged yourself in so many new ways already through the whole process, the whole prep, that's what makes it that much more rewarding. But you have to kind of be all in enough to know what that feels like, to really be dedicated enough to this craft. And then I think you can kind of earn that balance, but at the same time, there are different phases. There's off season and there's prep that can be totally different for people, and there's different levels to this too, where obviously genetics can play a role. Some people can get a lot further without taking it as seriously, but ultimately, like to reach your potential, if you really want to go far in it, there there are just levels of discipline to it. A little background on me, if anybody doesn't know, like I'm an IFBB pro. I turned pro in 2020, so I've had it for a while. A goal would be like awesome to go to the Olympia one day, and I haven't done that yet. If I did, qualify for the Olympia and want to place there, I'd have to take it to a whole nother level where, right now, like business and balancing life and coaching too can make that take a back seat at times. You have to be able to turn it up when you want to progress in this sport too. And I think that that's a skill. Not everybody needs to like take it that seriously, and you know, definitely not give up everything else in their life to be just 100% mentally obsessed, locked in with this bodybuilding stuff. You have to have realistic expectations too, and expect if you want to be able to take it really far, there's levels where you're going to have to turn that up more and more and more.
Yeah,
Well,
you
it's like
got
a professional athlete. You think of any professional athlete, right? You're gonna have to like it's different if you just wanna go out and play with your friends and play football. It's different if you're gonna be on in a league, and then it's different if you're gonna play professionally. Like, it goes up in levels, and it is something that has to be balanced, and I love how you said you have to look at your whole aspect of what is going on in your life and understanding your job is your job. Does it give you the ability to be able to divide your time so you can give more time to this because it will require more time and more attention? So you do have to be able to look at that perspective and know, okay, this is where I am. I can do this much and this much time. So this is the level where I'm going to be. If I really love it and want to do more, I need to prioritize and look at the things going on in my life and being able to shift and make a commitment to this because I need to become this much better, which requires this much more attention.
I
Yeah,
do think that's a learned skill with competition too. Probably the biggest mistake I see with newbies coming in is they don't think about the time frame of the show
Hmm.
and how their lifestyle has to kind of adjust to the prep. So you'll see cruises being booked, you'll see vacations being booked, and they're like, "Oh, the kids are off for the summer, so we're gonna go to Disney." And
My
really,
birth next month.
well, your show is 6 weeks later. So yeah, so you think we can make that work, right?
No,
Not ideal. Not ideal,
Mr.
no.
Olympia is
Don't eat the
not.
turkey leg. We know how much fat is actually in that. Just so you guys know, don't eat the turkey leg and
turkey
Disney.
legs.
Go look at the fat content in that.
Yeah, didn't we search that up one time of
We
how much
did.
fats were in sodium was in a turkey leg?
It's
Wow.
just it's the amount of fat and sodium in that thing. It's just
And everything matters when you're in a prep. I mean, so people do overlook that aspect of it. It does have to be a lot deeper than just, yeah, we follow some meal plans and macros and we work out and we do some cardio. You're always doing that, but yeah, it's, I mean, you can't miss like when you're in a prep, when you're getting close to your show, especially like there aren't going to be any cruises. It's probably not going to pan out well on the stage. At least if you want to enjoy that trip.
Yes. I mean,
yeah,
you pack all your meals for a week. I mean, I don't know how that's gonna happen, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it makes it tough.
Yeah. Okay,
And the
but you're
work
gonna
part
you got
too, and I think that's why a lot of bodybuilders, whether they're pro or just like serious or they love doing it, are like us, where like they want to do something for work that fits bodybuilding. Not everybody. I mean, there's always there's cops, there's firefighters, there's nurses, but like if you really want to do bodybuilding like long term and be serious about it, you either have to kind of plan a lot of your life around it so that it fits because you love to do this, or you just have to have a lot of discipline and structure to it. And that's what everybody says that you'll gain from a prep is like discipline. But I
Yeah.
think even structure is a better word for it.
Yes.
Like, you
And you build that discipline through it. That's one of the benefits of prep is it teaches you that because nothing works better than having a goal, you know. But when your goal is to get on that stage and wear next to nothing and get judged, you're pretty motivated, you know, to do the things that you got to do to get to that point. And but I'll say now I enjoy the idea of coaching pros and all that stuff, but I'll say, in my opinion, having a newbie come on with that energy is just so much freaking fun to coach because they will, you know, they will do the things. It takes a little bit of polishing to get them into the groove and stuff, but they're full of piss and vinegar. You know, they're ready to do it. And if you tell them to eat dirt, they're going to eat dirt. In most cases, you know, not that you'll do that, but that's the mindset. You know, they go and they're all in. They're doing it. I have noticed that sometimes people, as they get into it and done 1 or 2 shows and the next season comes, the foot's not in the gas quite as much. It's just not quite as much. There's a little bit more slack in the diet, you know, a little bit, and you have to kinda catch them. Have you noticed that?
I've noticed for myself at least, in my competition history, I do better after a loss. I mean, if I win something, I'm still gonna be motivated. My confidence is gonna be high. But the year that I won my pro card, the year before that, I was last call outs at nationals, and I'd been last call outs, many times at nationals. A lot of people will kind of work their way up in the placings and shows, and that kind of fits the idea of like you want to keep progressing, right? But that doesn't always translate to, you got fifth, next time you're going to get fourth, next time you're going to get third. So I went from last place almost to winning the national show, and I think a big part of that was just I was mad enough, after I had that loss. That's always been what it is for me. Is like if I get a worse look or a worse placing, that's when like my foot is gonna be on the gas after that. How to, keep that fire after like a win, I don't know. But for me, I think that not getting discouraged, but just being just mad enough. But like,
Mm,
hey, I did great, but like that wasn't what I wanted. I want a better outcome than that. Like we need to push a little harder. That's what motivates me. Maybe not every client is like that, but I think you have to kind of see the gap between where you're at and where the other competitors are or where you want to be to
yeah,
be able to push that gas a little bit harder. So I could see where, somebody who has already done it and they feel like they've achieved something, maybe they're in a better shape than when they first got into the bodybuilding thing, where they feel like they could slack off a little bit.
mm.
And you can't really do that.
You can't let off the gas. No, no, and a good example of that is when you were talking about nationals. So if anybody's never been to a national show, and he mentions last call out, which means that's pretty much the bottom 5, right, out of the group. So the bottom 5 is still insanely sickly, insane physiques in a
Mm.
national show. You know, so this is the difference here, you know, is it's people going to turn pro, you know, that's where you go to do that. And, but that's where the science and that's where it matters, the details that a lot of people don't think about, you know, the sleep and those, you know, things and not cheating and making sure you're not an extra teaspoon of this. All those things add up, and that can be the difference of literally I've seen like Jess is talking about, I've seen people place horribly in a show and then come back you know, a month later and win a show. You can make those adjustments, but that line is so fine that you learn that when you're in there that how easily just pulling back a little bit can push you back way far back because it's a difference of like 3%, you know, 2% in the physique. And the judges don't have an easy job, you know. They don't have an easy job. And listen, they don't care about your feelings. This is not about feelings. This is a
But
competition.
yeah, I
And their
know all those
job
judges. So I don't do any
is to
favors.
pick your job is to pick the best physiques up there, the top 5, and that includes the posing, that includes your stage presence, that includes all these things, and I think a lot of competitors kinda miss that a little bit when they get too focused on one thing. They may have an incredible physique, but you can get up on stage and your posing looks amateurish, you know, and you're not gonna get top 5 in a national show. I don't care how good your physique is, if your posing is up there and it does not look polished, there's no medals going home with you that day. So little things like that, water manipulation, making sure your sodium's on point, all these details. And, you know, for a true competitor, they like that. You know, they like the details because that gives you a chance to get even better by making a small change and doing that, and then having that talk with your coach after, what can we do and improve? And this is a big thing for competitors. And
Mm,
I'd like to talk more with you about this, Jess, is their mindset post show, how they handle that, and how that can make or break a person in competition to whether they're going to improve or whether they're going to regress or quit altogether,
yeah,
is how they take not winning, because nobody wins all the time. And like I said, you can go from one show and do horribly to the next show and win first place, and that could be based on the judging, on different judge panel, what they're looking for. So as I tell my competitors, I'm like, don't base your placing, don't make that your victory. Make your victory as, did you improve from the last show? Did you accomplish what the goal was to get to this show? If you did that, it's already a win. We're only going to go up from there, but you can't control who's going to show up that day. You can't control how the judges feel. They just might not like your hair that day. Who knows? Who knows what it is, but it can affect that. But what's very important is how you take it afterwards, because there's always something to learn. Another thing I share with my competitors is that you're going to learn a lot more from a loss than you're going to learn from a win.
yes.
Win is great. We all want it, but where's the lessons? What do you learn? How do you get better from that? And that can be hard to improve if you're winning, because that drive starts to fizzle down a little bit. Easier, but it's the mentality of, what do I got to do to improve? What could I have done better? So have you had moments with your competitors where they just did not handle not winning very well?
Yeah,
I'm sure you
that is
have, but
I
I'm
think
gonna put
that,
it out there anyway.
I actually a lot of times will feel more down than my clients do if they don't.
Yeah,
I think I want
absolutely.
more than them, and maybe it's because for them they recognize, and I'll say this too. Like I had a pretty good year for clients last year, so a lot of them placed like pretty well. We had a lot of seconds, a lot of thirds, where they were happy with that second or third because they recognized the work they put in. They knew how good the competition was. Sometimes it gets more tiresome as the coach, being like, "This is my third person that got second," where they can actually be pretty happy about it. I have had clients for sure that have not gotten the placing that they really wanted. Maybe it was just a higher level show they went to, or who showed up that day, or I think the worst thing to feel is to say, yeah, I wasn't like 100% happy with my look, whatever that be. And maybe you're 90%. Maybe it's just, it can be so many factors that people on the outside don't realize, right? The stress before the show, you couldn't go to the bathroom enough, or something happened with your tan, the
Period. Yeah.
lighting didn't suit you, a suit, a posing error, whatever it might be. I think people can get upset about that, and that's a little more understandable than like coming in absolutely on at your best and then somebody was just better.
Yeah.
But you do learn a lot from those losses. I always do. I think that some of the losses I had were best thing that ever happened to me. And I have competitors too. I have one who's about a week out, who I'm really excited to see step on stage at the Arnold Classic Amateur. I think that I'll give her a shout out. Kathleen has had a disappointing couple of national shows last year, her first time ever doing it. And it was definitely enough to say, like, hey, let's shut it down and focus on next year. But that really turned it up a notch for us, where like everything's been even more dialed in, and you have to get that feedback from judges, but also I think the experience of, this wasn't what I wanted. Like,
Yeah.
why did I not place that well? Did I do anything wrong, or do I just need more time to build? Or maybe it's like another pound to lose. Maybe it's one more week of dieting, or something different with your
Yeah.
posing, your peak. But you learn
Mhm.
from the losses, and I try to learn from wins too. When I won my pro card, or when my clients have placed well on shows, I've asked the judges, "Hey, like, what do we do to get better here?" But it really shows when you can take a loss well, and I try to do that right away as a coach. Maybe give them a little time if they like need a day, they want to process it, and then we talk about a
Yeah.
game plan. But then I'm like, let's talk about how this went. What can we do better with the peak, and what's the next step? I'll share one more story here. I think it helps is because I've learned a lot from my losses too. And before I got my pro card in 2020, I also did a show a week before, 2 weeks I think before that. It was the COVID year, so it was a kind of crazy year for
Big.
shows. I
Mm.
ended up
Yeah, it
actually
was.
waiting a while. I was ready in March to get on stage, and it ended
Uh,
up being August when they had a show. But I did a qualifying show, just to I was really eager to get back out there and hopefully, win a show. I did the South Carolina States. They had like a 2-day show, so it was basically 2 shows on a Friday and Saturday back to back. I did both. Friday I got second, and Saturday I got second again. And I was like, man, this is like killing my momentum to go into the national show. It's a whole nother level that I was hoping to go get my pro card. But the feedback that I don't think I need to get specific here, but feedback that I was able to get from the judges at that show on why I got beat is exactly why I was able to get that much better to end up winning the show that actually mattered the most to me.
nah.
I actually came out on top over the guy who beat me 2 weeks later, when I won at the Junior USA's and got my card, and I really, like, credit so much of that to losing twice right before that. Some people don't consider 2nd place a loss. I mean, there's a lot of people in a show that can be great, but for me, the feedback I got for why somebody else beat me was everything I needed to come in 2 or 3 pounds lighter and hold my pose a little bit better and make these little tweaks that made all of the difference for me.
And it's crazy how those little teeny tiny changes, and that's the thing that you can't let it mess with your head. Because if you're getting on that stage, and that's another thing, is when you're getting on that stage and you know you have done everything, you have crossed every T, done every I. Like when you jump on that stage, that's what makes you confident going into that stage. That's what can get your mindset in a great place. And also knowing it could be the slightest little thing that they tell you to change, and that's all it would have taken, rather than beating yourself up like why couldn't I have done better? Like, okay, but if I did a quarter turn to the left, like it would have been it. Like
Yeah,
that's craziness with this sport.
Little thing,
it's
it's a
true.
game of inches sometimes.
Yeah.
Sure, sometimes a lot of times, if we're not, pro caliber or Olympia caliber physiques, judges' feedback is gonna sound the same a lot of times. I'm
Generic.
a little bit leaner, a little bit more size, a little bit more polish. But when they do give you something really specific, something little, I think be happy with that because that
Yeah.
that meant like your
You
overall
are
team
so
did pretty
close.
good. It's just
Yeah.
when a judge says like a little more of this or turn your pose this way or if you're a female competitor do your hair or your suit or your makeup different, I would take
Yeah.
that as a win for a prep.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Not when you have to like grow your glutes for a year and a half. That's something different.
It's
But
a hard truth sometimes that we just have to swallow that jagged pill. Okay, this is gonna take a minute, you know? And I'll tell you, speaking of the COVID thing too, because that was
So
after
yeah.
I did, nationals, and my first one was in 2019, and then that next year I came back, I got 5th in that one, and then the next year this was just one of those preps that just everything just went too easy. It was almost that was just melting off. I don't even know 100% what I was doing right at this time, and, coming up to the show, and I was super confident, and sure enough, 5 days out from the show, actually maybe a week out from the show, I got COVID. And all that prep, and you know what prep for nationals is no joke. So all that time, even though it went well, I had the confidence, I was there, got it, and I'm like, really? So
did you
I ended up
feel it?
bouncing back and going to competing at the,
Yeah.
Ultimate Grand Prix down here, and I won my class for that one, so I was happy. But, boy, it can get frustrating to go through that whole thing. That's why I don't know how you do this, Jess, but when I try to plan for a competitor for a show, I like to kinda work towards, if I have the ability to do it, a cluster of shows, because life happens, and it can you don't know when it's gonna happen, but it can happen, and something can throw that thing on there that can throw it off. It just is what it is, you know? And, but that's one thing I learned is when my first earlier years as a coach, I would do that. I had the hard date, I was just, I was like, put your money down for the show. That way you're gonna be locked in mentally, because that's what I was doing. And I learned, all right, that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Let's just hold off till the end
It's not my
and just
favorite.
make sure,
Yeah.
you know.
That's a good point. That is not my favorite, to plan it, to say a year ahead of time, like, "Oh, this is the show I'm gonna do." Like, maybe we aim for that time frame, but yeah, to be able to, be flexible when things do happen and be able to pivot. Or if we still do the show and something doesn't go our way, whether it's like an internal or external thing, have another show lined up. I think that's great for competitors to be able to do too to learn from
Yeah,
all of the experience on stage is like, especially if it's your first show, like wait a week, 2 weeks. If you're already in shape enough, dial it in just a little bit more. Go up there. And even if the same people are doing the show,
right,
and sometimes people don't want to do another show because the same person that beat them is going to be in the other show, but
right.
you get better, and that's the name of the game. That's what's so fun about it to me, and to see my competitors do is yeah, take that feedback and improve a little bit on it and see what happens the next time when you
And that's it.
know what changes to make.
Yeah.
But you get so much confidence from that.
And that's when they become the competitor, you know? The first show, that's just finding out where you stand. That's kinda setting your present bar at that point. What happens from there is based on feedback. What do we see? Now you become a competitor. Now when you're training with intention to get
Yes.
better for specific things, which is very different from lifestyle, right? So and also with the newbies coming in, that's very important to establish with them and have that fallback show because I know a lot of times with people that are new coming in, they don't necessarily have some do, but not always have a realistic expectation of like the timeline and what actually has to be done. Because, they see on social media 30-day challenge, drop 30 pounds in a month. That's not bodybuilding. No, if you drop 30 pounds in a month. That's not good for us. So
Longer.
understanding, that one of the real important things about bodybuilding is not losing that muscle in the prep. Take the time you need to take. Do not compromise the muscle because you can get the fat back really quick and you can take the fat off really quick. But that muscle, it takes a minute.
Yeah.
So let's not
Few
lose
minutes.
that. And that's something that I find that a lot of competitors come in, they look at a show and they want to do that because to them they're like, well, it's soon, it's not that far away. Want to get that done, and so I can go on and with my life. But they're not really understanding that this is not a boot camp. That we're just going to shed that 20, 30 pounds off like no big deal. It still has to be systematic. You have to look and have those drops and make sure your body's not stressed. You have to make sure that they're holding that muscle, as they go in because they don't realize if you push too hard and you have to shave so much muscle off, they're gonna most likely look really flat at the end of that prep and stressed, and it's not a winning look, and, yeah, I don't think it's a look they're gonna be happy with. Having those shows and explaining it to them in the beginning saying, "Look, we're gonna shoot for this show, but if that date doesn't happen," and I give them a hard date first. I'll say, "We're gonna shoot for the hard date first. If that doesn't happen, we have this show here, this show here. This one might be a 2-hour drive, so we're gonna try to make that one, but we have that established right out of the gate that so they're not feeling defeated because this is a big thing. I think everybody sees this. Coaches don't openly go on to Instagram or Facebook or TikTok and start talking about their competitors that didn't make the show. We all love to talk about our competitors. They just went out there and crushed it, right? It makes us look great. Love it. Well, the reality is, I don't care who the coach is. We got competitors that don't make it to the show when we have to put the date back, but that doesn't mean that the coach is not a good coach. A lot of times that's a
They
responsible
were.
call in what's best interest of the client. And so if someone doesn't make a show, you got to understand that we're doing that for your best interest. That doesn't mean you failed. That doesn't mean you failed. It means that we're looking out to give you the best return for what you're putting in. So if you are not where we think you should be, then we're not okay with putting you on that stage like that. And it's not maybe to some coaches, but I think I can speak for Jess, not for us. It's not an ego thing. It's us protecting you, to make sure that you have the best experience possible in this. And they do, they feel defeated, like they didn't make it and they got to push it back like they did something wrong. I expect them to do things wrong. It's the first round, And so we go for it, and then as long as they make it on, they make it on. That's what happens. So I think
Knowing is when they get up on that stage, they know that you said, okay, we're going to do this when you're at your best. So when they do get to that stage, they know, okay, this means I'm ready because he wouldn't let me do it if I wasn't ready. And that's another thing is because you don't want to jump on that stage and then get a shitty feedback from the judges and say, well, I told you if you waited, you would have been better. It's better to say, okay, I'm not ready. Let's do this right and do it the right way so I stay healthy. My look is the best that it can be. And then I can be really happy with the process because that's what it's about. Competing should be an amazing process. And again, even though it's hard, even though it's challenging, even though it, has all the discipline, the experience overall of knowing what you accomplished and what you have created through your hard work, that's what bodybuilding's about, whether it's on stage or not. It's just knowing that you did something consistently for a long period of time to get you to a point that you are proud enough to display that on a stage and get judged for.
Well, I will say too, just to have some clarity with this, as the competitor progresses and gets better and becomes more professional, whether they're still NPC or not, still more professional towards becoming more of a pro, then we can set hard dates. Absolutely. We still
Different game.
keep in
Yeah.
consideration they may get COVID, they may get the flu, something like that. But as far as how the prep's going to go, the reason why is because we have data on them. We have a year with them, we have 2 years with them, maybe 3 years. We know how their bodies work, we know how it responds, and we can make that hard date with them when they progress and they grow into that. So you can have a pro, but you've been with that pro for 4 years. Well, hopefully, that you've been with them but you understand it, so you can make those hard dates because they know what they gotta do to get the job done, so now it's very much a team thing, but in the beginning, stages of NPC, you have to have a little bit of buffer, to do it, and otherwise you're gonna burn out, and you're gonna have a bad experience, and you're not gonna have good things to say about it or good memories, and why would somebody go through all that to have nothing good to say about it? So,
That is a good
you know
distinction to make, I think, the difference between being in your first prep and not having that data and not having everything cemented yet, being able to be really flexible with that versus like, yeah, after you've worked with somebody for long enough. If I've worked with a client already before, we've already done a show, I'm probably not going to push their show back. We can probably be pretty definite with what they're going to end up doing. And it's just a different game at that level. It's a different game, like at the pro level. If you get the pro level, you're only changing show dates because maybe there's more strategy to it, where totally different than a amateur competitor. If I'm trying to compete as a pro and I want to go to the Olympia, I am actually going to try to figure out like who's doing these shows because they're pros and I know who they are and I know they're the best that I have to go up against, and maybe at the national level too, or like a very competitive local show. You might know who's doing them and have a little bit of strategy behind what show we want to target for that reason, or do we want to pivot? But yeah, I think that when somebody's earlier on and they haven't been with you long enough or had that data and gotten on stage enough that they do need to have a little flexibility to when that show date is going to be. So I'm curious too, do you guys approach those more beginner clients the same way as me sometimes where you might say, hey, we're just gonna start prepping and aim for this timeline, or we're gonna pick a show later on, or do you find it easier to give them a show date so they have something to be motivated about, and then worst case move it if they need to move it, and then two, like if somebody does have to push back that show, how many times do you think you can push back a show before it's like, hey,
Yeah.
let's just take an off season and come back to
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna happen. You'll see maybe their body wasn't fully recovered, maybe there's an issue that you can catch. I think, my it's funny because my approach going into shows is I usually, like, tell my coach, "We'll do it when I'm ready." I don't have a show picked out right now, but I have some that I'd like to do, but we're gonna go in that direction. But I've done it long enough that I know now that I don't really wanna go on stage if I'm not there. I'm not gonna marry myself to a show. But if there's one I really wanna do, we do it, but we never miss a day. We've never had an issue with that, but it is,
But with your clients.
but with the clients, I find that if I have to give them some shows to shoot for, so and I kinda present it to them kinda in the way that I mentioned is I'll say, "Okay, this is the one we're shooting for, but if anything happens, we got this show," and kinda give them a little bit of backup, and I'll push those backups maybe 6 weeks, depending, as far as I can kinda get it where it's kinda still in that time frame. Because I find that most people kinda need that goal, especially as a competitor. They just work harder when they have a date to work towards, and I find if they don't have that, it's not the
Don't push
same.
as hard in the beginning.
They're not pushing as hard if they don't have a date and they're just kinda going in like that, and so I have said that before and I took it back and stopped doing that. I didn't do it again because, that's the
Pictures are
thing
different.
too, and this kinda circles back around to this with amateurs well, not amateurs, but beginners, newbies, is they try to ease into a prep, right? And so when you ease into a prep, when it's prep time, that's pre-calculated in our minds, what we want to see month to month. Easing into the prep isn't part of that protocol. When that green light goes and we're in prep, we're on it, you know? We're not just kinda, "Ooh, well, I just kinda, I'll get pretty close to macros this week," and just kind of and you're not seeing any weight drop in the beginning, and I'm like,
You
oh,"
just lost a month.
you know?
Then you can
Well,
have to go right into a hard fat.
yeah, and it's like running a race without a finish line. Like,
Yeah.
we're just gonna be jogging.
I think easing into a
Yeah,
prep is just you're still following it 100%, but hey, the macro drops or the cardio, whatever we're doing is going to change as we go. It's going to increase, but we're not following the plan a little bit, and then the show's getting close. I gotta, you know,
Let me go ahead and do
now.
6 hours of cardio.
yeah, yeah. I just I to any competitors, listen, I can tell you, go 100% out of the gate because the more you can achieve in the first part of prep, the better your
The
prep's
better
gonna go.
the end will be. Yep.
100% because you do not wanna be stressed in those last 4 weeks of the show because you didn't do that in the beginning, and your coach will have it laid out. Follow that plan, do it right from the beginning, and really try to get the most you can get out of that first. When your metabolism's the highest, that's money in the bank right there. You can knock some serious pounds off in the beginning, but it starts adapting and things will get harder.
Yeah. You
So
don't have to
it's
overdo it at that point either. That's what coaches are for.
mhm,
Coaches like us, like you just follow it. We're going to
Follow the
guide you
plan.
there. It's going to get harder when it needs to get harder. So don't not follow things right in the beginning, but don't overdo it either. Follow the plan, and it's set up this way for a reason. We're going to make the right adjustments when you need to get you to that end goal.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, Jess. We're gonna have to wrap it up here, but thank you,
Yes.
thank you, thank you for being a part here. And I won't ask you the silly question. Actually, I will ask you a silly
All
question.
right.
So I'm gonna go ahead and ask you, what is your favorite cartoon that you watched as a child? This is
SpongeBob.
a lot easier than the music one, Jess.
The music one, I got him on that
When
one
I was a
last
kid,
time.
probably like SpongeBob or Jimmy Neutron.
Strong
When
one.
I was like a
Yeah,
teen,
those are
I'd
good
say
ones.
like South Park.
Yeah, yeah. All right, that definitely tells your age. All right, cool.
For my kids, you didn't have to ask me twice.
That was space. All right, guys. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. We would truly appreciate if you enjoyed this episode to leave us a review. We will be sharing Jess's information in the comments. And again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Master Your Metabolism. If you found value in today's episode, it would mean the world to us if you'd hit subscribe and share this episode with someone who could use a little guidance in their health journey. Ready to take the next step? Head over to www.mastersfitnesscoaching.com and you can book a free call right from the site so we can chat about your goals and how we can help support you. Don't forget to join our Facebook group where we're sharing coaching tips, support, and tricks to help keep you on track and continue making progress. You don't have to do this alone. We're here to walk with you every step of the way. Until next time, stay consistent, stay kind to yourself, and keep mastering your metabolism. Let's do this together.